There is nothing more seductive than a goal. It sparkles. It speaks in promise. It pulls your attention, fills your journals, gives your heart something to beat for. It whispers, this is who you could be if you only would. And yet, most goals never see daylight. Not because they were too big, not because they were unrealistic, not because the dreamer lacked talent. They die for one reason. The goal moved, but the person never did. Because goals don't work unless you do. You can vision board all you want. You can speak it into the universe, write it in calligraphy, share it with the world. But unless you back that goal with consistent, unrelenting, uncomfortable work, it dies a poetic death. Not with drama, but with silence. Because life doesn't respond to what you hope for. It responds to what you work for. And if you're not working daily, deeply, deliberately, then your goal isn't a goal. It's a decoration, something you hang on your wall to impress people. But here's the truth. No one is coming to build it for you. No one is coming to force you to wake up. No one is coming to drag you to the gym, to the desk, to the work. You either move or it dies. You either build or it fades. Because success isn't waiting for the dreamer. It's waiting for the worker. The one who doesn't just write it down, but wakes up early and lives it out. The one who doesn't just set goals on New Year's, but executes them in June. The one who stops waiting to feel ready and starts acting like it's already done. And you don't need more motivation. You need more movement. You don't need another idea. You need more implementation. Because goals don't respond to intention. They respond to effort. They respond to how many reps you're willing to do when no one is watching. To how many hours you'll work without applause. To how many times you'll keep showing up when the goal feels far, the energy feels low, the results feel invisible. Because real growth doesn't announce itself. It accumulates quietly in your discipline, in the hours you didn't skip, in the details you didn't ignore, in the standards you didn't lower even when the shortcut was tempting. And that's what separates the ones who almost made it from the ones who actually did. The ones who traded potential for production. The ones who didn't just want it, they worked for it. They got tired too. They doubted too. But they didn't stop because their goal wasn't a fantasy. It was a commitment. And that commitment, it was written in sweat. Because commitment is not about emotion, it's about execution. It's not about the hype you feel on day one. It's about the discipline you show on day 100 when the fire is gone, the results are slow, and no one is clapping. It's what you do when it's boring, when it's inconvenient, when life gets loud and the goal gets quiet. Because most people don't fail because their goals were too big. They fail because their work ethic was too inconsistent. They treat success like a lottery ticket instead of a lifestyle. But you can't wish your way into greatness. You grind your way there. You rise before comfort wakes up. You move before motivation kicks in. You act while others are still overthinking. Because those who wait for perfect conditions never build anything permanent. But those who work through resistance, those who show up when they don't feel like it, those are the ones whose goals become gravity. You want people to respect your goals? Then work so loud they can't ignore them. Show them in how you walk, in how you operate, in how you never flinch when it gets hard. Because hard is normal to someone who's committed. This is what separates the wanderer from the warrior. The wanderer has goals, but no grit. The warrior builds regardless. They don't confuse excitement with effectiveness. They don't chase feelings. They chase follow-through. Because they understand this eternal law. Goals don't care how you feel. They only respond to what you do. So while others write and rewrite their intentions, you move. You build something before it feels real. You take the action before the inspiration. You trust your patterns, not your moods. And in that daily doing, in the repetition, in the sweat, in the simplicity of stacking one small win on another, you begin to see something miraculous. You don't need to chase the goal anymore, because now the goal starts chasing you, because you've become the kind of person who hits it, the kind of person who's no longer surprised by success because you've trained for it. You've earned it. You didn't wait for it. You worked for it. And now it's only a matter of time, because time always bows to the one who works relentlessly, to the one who stacks disciplined days like bricks, who builds character beneath the surface before results show up in public. This is the reality most never grasp. Your goals don't fail because you didn't dream big enough. They fail because your daily disciplines were too small. You can't build a legacy on motivation. You can't build consistency on mood. You can't build a life of freedom with the habits of someone in chains. And the chains, they're not made of steel. They're made of comfort, of compromise, of just this once, of I'll start Monday, of I deserve a break. But freedom is forged in the fire of repetition, the kind of repetition that doesn't make headlines but makes you unshakable. And the world won't clap for it. The world will be too busy scrolling. But while they're chasing dopamine, you'll be chasing domination. And not domination over others, domination over self, over your laziness, over your lower voice, over your urge to quit early, and call it balance. You will conquer the you that keeps playing small, because your goals don't ask for promises. They ask for proof. Not once, not for a week, daily. Every day you show upaven if it's small. Even if it's ugly, you prove to the universe, I am serious. You don't just want it when it's easy. You want it when it's exhausting, when it's slow, when it's silent, when the reward hasn't arrived but the responsibility still does. That's when your character is carved. That's when your reputation is built. Not in grand moments, but in the thousands of decisions you make in the shadows. So look at your life. Look at your calendar. Look at your routine. Do they reflect your goals? Because if they don't, your goals are just noise. They're dreams without muscle. But the moment your habits start to mirror your vision, the world shifts. The universe aligns. Resources appear. Connections are drawn to your fire. Momentum gathers behind your name, because now you're not just working, you've become the work. You've become the kind of person who doesn't have to hit their goals. You're the kind of person who can't not, because once it's in you once, the standard is burned into your bones. There's no going back. You can't unsee the vision. You can't unfeel the hunger. You can't unlive the fire that now fuels your mornings, your habits, your discipline. And that's when the shift happens. That's when you stop counting days and start compounding results. When you stop chasing motivation and start breathing momentum, you don't ask, how do I stay consistent? Because consistency is now who you are. You don't ask, what if I fail? Because failure is just feedback to someone who's committed. You don't ask, when will it happen? Because you know deep in your spirit it's already happening. Because every drop of sweat, every skipped excuse, every early morning and late night, it's stacking, it's multiplying, it's moving you, not just toward your goals, but toward your identity. And that identity, it is no longer fragile. It is forged in your repetition, forged in your refusal to be casual, forged in your rejection of average, of ordinary, of anything that does not bow to your vision. Because now your life is not about having goals. It's about honoring them. You don't just write goals, you build lives around them. You design systems that trap progress. You set rhythms that drown distraction. You create environments where excuses can't breathe because you're not available for the version of you that quits anymore. That version is gone, buried under every rep you did when you didn't feel like it, erased by every hour you invested while the world was watching Netflix. You've become someone new, someone dangerous to mediocrity, someone who wakes up with a blueprint, not just a wish list, someone who moves like they already deserve it because they've done the work to demand it. You don't need permission anymore. You are the permission. You don't need proof anymore. You are the proof. Then let's close this in fire, not flowers. Because by now, you understand the unshakable law. Goals don't work unless you do. Not once. Not when it's convenient. Not when it's shiny and new. But every single day, when it's dark, when it's dry, when no one's watching, when it doesn't feel fair, when the results are silent and the grind is screaming, you move. You build. Because you know what they don't. That the world doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you prove you can sustain. And you've proven it. Through the cold mornings, through the tired nights, through the loneliness of walking a path most people are too soft to touch. You have shown up for your goals like your life depends on it, because it does. Because the goal isn't just to achieve something. It's to become someone. And now, you've become not just the dreamer, not just the planner, but the worker, the one who earns the results, the one who creates the momentum, the one who no longer hopes for success but hosts it because success visits the homes of those who keep the fire burning long after motivation dies. This is who you are now. Not a hobbyist, not a dabbler, not a someday sayer. You are a builder of futures. You are a steward of standards. You are a disciple of discipline. And when they ask how you did it, you won't speak of hacks. You won't talk about talent. You'll look them in the eye, steady as stone, and say, I did the work every day, even when I didn't want to, because my goals weren't optional. They were orders. And now you don't chase the goal. The goal chases you, because now you move different. You talk different. You live different, and you'll never go back. Because once you've built a life with your bare hands, you no longer beg for one. You own it. And it all began with one decision: to stop dreaming and start doing. Success is never hidden behind complexity. It hides in the obvious. It hides in the mundane. It hides in the small decisions, the quiet choices, the almost invisible disciplines that compound in silence. Not because they're hard to see, but because they're so easy to overlook. That's the trap. Because what's easy to do is also easy not to do. And that is the line most never cross. Not because they couldn't, but because they wouldn't. Because there's no applause for drinking a glass of water instead of soda. No reward for making one extra phone call. No trophy for choosing to journal instead of scroll. No spotlight for 5 pages, read, or one more rep, or going to bed on time. But those are the very things success is built on. Not dramatic moments, but consistent, boring ones. The kind no one celebrates. The kind no one sees. The kind that feels so small you wonder if they matter. And they do. Because every great life is built on the back of decisions that were easy to do, but most people simply didn't. They said, it's just one cookie. It's just one missed workout. It's just one day off. But life doesn't respond to what you do once. It responds to what you do repeatedly. It responds to rhythm. It responds to momentum. It responds to compound choices, stacked day after day after day. And the compound effect doesn't care if you meant well. It only measures movement. You either did or you didn't. You either acted or avoided. You either built or betrayed. Not because it was hard, but because it was easy not to. And if that truth doesn't shake you, you haven't understood the weight of it yet. Because this is the real danger, not the massive failures, but the quiet neglect, the small things you said you'd get to, the tiny cracks in your integrity you said you'd patch tomorrow, the unread book, the unsent message, the conversation avoided, the voice ignored, the workout skipped, the opportunity shelved because it felt too small to matter. But if it's small enough to ignore, it's big enough to destroy. Because what's neglected today becomes invisible rot tomorrow. And rot doesn't announce itself. It spreads silently until one day your confidence is gone. Your energy is drained. Your momentum is missing. And you don't even know when it happened. But it happened in the little things, the things that were easy to do, and even easier not to. That's the law of life. Small hinges swing big doors. But most people keep trying to kick the door down with intensity instead of turning the hinge with consistency. They want the grand gesture, the breakthrough moment, the lightning bolt of inspiration. But the lightning doesn't strike the unprepared. And the prepared are the ones who mastered the small. They're the ones who drank the water, who made the bed, who read the page, who saved the dollar, who prayed the prayer, who built the habit, not once, not when they felt like it, but daily, because they knew something most never learn. That greatness is not created in the big decisions. It is revealed by them, but it is created in the small ones. And that should be the most encouraging thing in the world, because it means success isn't far away. It's right in front of you, in the next 10 minutes, in your morning routine, in what you choose to consume, in how you speak to yourself, in whether or not you do the small things when no one's watching. Because success is not a mystery. It's just a math equation made of tiny choices, each one easy to do, each one easy not to. And the difference between the rich and the broke, the fit and the unhealthy, the fulfilled and the bitter, it's not intelligence. It's not luck. It's not even opportunity. It's whether or not they respected the small things. Because when you respect the small, you invite the big. But when you disrespect the small, the big becomes impossible. That's the paradox. The ones who make it to the top are the ones who mastered the bottom. The ones who embraced the boring. The ones who did what everyone else overlooked. And they did it again and again and again. Until one day, everyone else asked how they got so far ahead. And the answer was simple. They did the things that were easy to do and didn't stop doing them. Because what happens next is what most never have the patience to wait for. See, there's a tipping point. A moment where the little things you've done over and over suddenly explode into results that feel impossible to everyone else but inevitable to you. That's the reward of doing the easy things long enough. You become undeniable. Because you didn't just act, you became disciplined. You became consistent. You became trustworthy. You became the kind of person who builds greatness from the ground up, not with fanfare, not with force, but with follow-through. You stopped waiting for signs and started following systems. You stopped trying to feel ready and started honoring the rhythm. And in that rhythm, you found your real self, the one who doesn't need to be told what to do every day, the one who doesn't need to be hyped up to do the right thing, the one who doesn't negotiate with mediocrity just because no one's watching, because the one who builds in silence always collects in public. It's a law of life. The world doesn't always notice what you're doing in the dark, but it can't ignore what you've built when the light hits it. And when that moment comes, and it will come, your success won't feel like a surprise. It'll feel like a receipt for every small thing you didn't skip, for every time you chose process over pleasure, for every moment you honored your future more than your feelings. And that kind of living, it makes you dangerous, not in arrogance, in consistency. Because when you realize that success isn't fair, it's close, right here, hiding in the next simple action. You stop chasing and start stacking. You stack wins. You stack habits. You stack self-respect. You become the kind of person who walks into rooms different because you carry the confidence of someone who keeps promises to themselves. And that energy, it's rare. It's magnetic. It's the kind of energy that moves silently through the world, opening doors before you touch the handle. Not because you're flashy, but because you're faithful to the vision, to the process, to the small things. because you now understand the one rule most people never master. What's easy to do is easy not to do. And if you ignore it, you inherit a life of quiet regret. But if you embrace it, you unlock a life of quiet power, a power that grows, a power that compounds, a power that doesn't just change your results, it rewrites your identity. So when people ask you how you built what you built, when they ask you for the secret, when they wonder how you became so grounded, so focused, so far ahead, you won't point to a single breakthrough. You'll say, I just did the little things that were easy to do, and I never stopped doing them, because that's how empires are born. Not through noise, but through non-negotiables. Not through intensity, but through integrity. And your integrity is tested most not when the spotlight is on, but when the world is silent. It's tested when it's just you and the next decision, you and the temptation to take a day off, you and the choice to coast, to compromise, to do it later. But every time you resist that voice, every time you do what's easy to ignore, you add another brick to the foundation of a life that no storm can shake. Because the storms will come. The doubt will return. The critics will whisper. The pressure will mount. But if your systems are solid, if your habits are grounded in principle, not preference, you will not break. You will not be reactive. You will be relentless. You'll keep moving when others freeze. You'll keep building when others complain. You'll keep growing when others shrink. Because the hard days don't stop you. They verify you. They prove to the world, and more importantly, to yourself, that you don't flinch when it's time to lead. That's the gift of mastering the easy things. They become your automatic power. You don't think, you just do. You don't hesitate, you execute. You don't drift, you dominate. And while others wait for permission, you build proof. While others live in reaction, you lead by rhythm. While others sabotage success with inconsistency, you sustain it because you've built the discipline of doing the smallest things with the greatest care. And when the foundation is right, everything you build on top of it becomes unstoppable. That's the blueprint. That's the hidden architecture of every champion you've ever admired. It wasn't just their mindset. It wasn't just their passion. It was their patterns. Patterns built on the principle that if something is easy to do and you do it consistently, you create a life most people will never touch. Because they were waiting for something grand, something dramatic, something worth doing. But you knew the truth. It's all worth doing. Every glass of water, every 5-minute stretch, every early wake up, every book finished, every dollar saved, every junk food refused, every apology made, every truth spoken, every rep pushed, every no to what didn't align, every yes to what felt small, but served the vision. Those are the bricks. And now your house is rising. And the higher it rises, the clearer it becomes. Success is not hidden. It's available. It's in your routine. It's in your calendar. It's in your conversations. It's in the moment you're living in right now. Will you reach for the phone or the vision? Will you delay or deliver? Will you let the easy things keep slipping through your fingers? Or will you pick them up and own them? Because your future is not built in some distant tomorrow. It's built in your next choice. And if you master the easy things, the hard things will take care of themselves. Because this is where most people miss it. They think the hard things will make them strong. They chase the extremes. They romanticize burnout. They glorify suffering. But strength doesn't come from doing what's hard once. It comes from doing what's right every single day. And most of what's right, it isn't hard. It's just inconvenient. That's why so many abandon the path. Because greatness doesn't feel like fire. It feels like friction. The friction of resisting the easy, no big deal decisions. The friction of showing up when it would be so simple not to. The friction of being the one who keeps their word in a world where breaking it is the norm. And if you're not trained for that, if you haven't conditioned your mind to see small choices as sacred, you'll fold. You'll drift. You'll drown in the very life you were meant to rise above. But not you. Not anymore. Because now you see the code. Now you understand what separates the 1% from the 99%. It's not brilliance. It's not background. It's not connections. It's the person who says, I will not underestimate what seems insignificant. I will not betray my future just because the cost feels small. I will not ignore the little things because I know they are everything. And once you live like that, you become inevitable. You stop trying to force success. You attract it because everything about you says, I can be trusted with more responsibility, more pressure, more influence. Because if you can manage the easy things, you've proven you can carry the weight of greatness. And that's what greatness really is. Not the person with the most talent, not the loudest in the room, but the person with the most follow-through, the one who still shows up after the excitement dies, the one who still performs when no one is watching, the one who still honors the process after others get bored, the one who wins not with force but with faithfulness. That is power. Not the explosive kind, the inevitable kind, the kind that doesn't shout, the kind that doesn't need hype, the kind that just keeps compounding. And when people finally see your results, when they finally ask, what was your secret? You won't have to say a word. Your life will speak, and it will whisper the truth that changed everything. What's easy to do is also easy not to do. And you chose to do it. Every single time. You don't need a perfect plan to start. You don't need every step mapped out, every tool in hand, every detail locked in place. You just need a vision burning, undeniable, alive inside of you, like a flame that refuses to go out. Because when the vision is clear, the how will appear. The problem is not the path. The problem is the blurred vision, the hesitation, the second guessing, the fear disguised as logic, the overthinking posing as intelligence. You think you need more strategies, more time, more clarity, more mentors, more information, but you don't. What you need is a vision you believe in enough to take the first step without evidence, without applause, without knowing how it's all going to work out. Because vision isn't something you figure out. It's something you feel. It wakes you up at night. It makes you restless in rooms that don't match your future. It whispers when you try to settle, and it screams when you betray it. Vision doesn't wait for the perfect environment. It grows in defiance of your circumstances. It doesn't ask for permission. It pulls you towards something greater, even when logic tells you to play small. And if you've ever felt that pull, that tension, that ache to become more than what your current life reflects, then you already know what it is. It's not ambition. It's not fantasy. It's not delusion. It's vision. And the reason your life feels off, the reason your energy leaks, the reason your confidence flickers is because you keep asking for the how before you've fully owned the vision. But the how is not the problem. The how is a servant to the one who knows where they're going. The world bends to the person with a clear vision. Opportunities rise up. Doors unlock. People align. Energy floods in. But only when you stop waiting for the path to show up first and decide that the vision is non-negotiable. That's when the how begins to reveal itself. Not before. Not when you're comfortable. Not when you've eliminated all fear. But the moment you say, this is what I'm building. This is who I am becoming. This is where I'm going, and I'll figure it out as I walk. That is when the fog begins to lift. That is when momentum starts to build. Because vision gives you something that overthinking never will: direction. And with direction, even your mistakes become sacred. Even your detours become designed. Because when the destination is clear, every failure teaches. Every delay refines. Every barrier tests and sharpens. That's the gift of clarity. It makes chaos irrelevant. Because chaos doesn't survive when you know where you're going. Because clarity doesn't beg for conditions, it creates them. It turns indecision into power. It turns distractions into ghosts. It turns every how into a lesson that rises after you move, not before. But most never see this. Most people live their whole lives asking for a map when what they need is a mission. A mission that burns so bright, so hot, that you would rather walk into the unknown than stay in the comfort that's killing your greatness. A mission that makes fear irrelevant, not because fear disappears, but because purpose gets louder. You don't need certainty. You need conviction. And conviction is born from vision, from seeing something with your heart so clearly that your brain eventually catches up. This is where every transformation begins. Not in the planning, but in the commitment. A commitment that says, I may not know how. I may not have what they have. But I know why I'm doing this. I know who I must become. And I'm willing to walk into the dark until the path lights up beneath my feet. Because the path will not appear to the one who waits. It appears to the one who moves. The one who walks anyway. The one who builds with broken tools if that's all they have. The one who stops using uncertainty as a reason to delay and starts using it as fuel to discover. You don't find the how by waiting. You find the how by moving toward the what. And when your what is powerful enough, when your vision is anchored in something real, then everything else shifts. Resources find you. People feel you. Doors open. And not because life suddenly got easier, but because you got clearer. Clarity creates momentum. And momentum doesn't care if you have all the answers. Momentum just needs one thing: commitment to move. So what is the vision that's been calling you? The one you've tried to silence. The one you've put off. The one you keep saying someday too. What if you stopped asking how? What if you stopped needing all the steps? What if you just decided to go? To start building with what you have? To speak what you believe? To move in the direction your soul has been screaming for? Because once you move, the how will rise to meet you. One door, one voice, one insight, one divine disruption at a time. That's how it works. But only for the bold. Only for those who move before they see. Only for those who stop needing permission and start living like the vision is law. So stop waiting. Walk. Because walking with vision means you no longer worship the map. You no longer obsess over every twist, every turn, every tiny detail. You don't ask, what if I get lost? You say, if I stay still, I'll never be found. Because now you understand something sacred. The pain of walking the wrong path is still better than the comfort of staying put in a life that does not reflect your soul. You would rather be wrong in motion than right in stagnation. You would rather learn by living than rot by rehearsing. Because no clear vision was ever fulfilled by the person who needed to know everything first. No empire was built by the person who asked, but what if it fails? Before laying the first brick. They moved. They decided. They said, this is the direction, and if it changes, I'll pivot. But I will not stand still, waiting for the wind to tell me who I am. Because life doesn't respond to the doubter, it responds to the decider. The one who says, I don't know everything, but I know enough to start, enough to act, enough to reach, enough to step toward the calling that won't shut up inside your chest. And every step taken toward that calling, it sharpens the vision. It silences the noise. It strengthens the why. Because clarity is not found, it's forged. Forged in the fires of rejection. Forged in the setbacks that teach you what actually matters. Forged in the long nights when no one claps, but you keep building anyway. Forged in the moments where you are tempted to go back, but something inside says, forward is the only direction. That something, it's vision. And when it's clear, you become unstoppable. Not because the world makes it easy, but because the world no longer makes the rules. Your vision does. It decides how you spend your time. It decides who you let in. It decides what you say yes to and more importantly, what you never entertain again. It becomes your compass when everything else is chaos. And chaos is loud, but vision is louder because it doesn't need to shout. It just knows. And that knowing, it creates gravity. It pulls the right things towards you and repels the rest. It makes your path magnetic, not perfect, but proven. Because now you're not walking blindly. You're walking with fire, and fire lights everything it touches. Because once that fire is lit, you can't unfeel it. You can't unsee the truth. You now carry that vision is your power, and clarity is your crown. You stop chasing guarantees. You stop craving validation. You stop asking for signs and start becoming one. Because now, your life isn't led by circumstance. It's governed by conviction. And conviction doesn't beg. It commands. It walks into rooms and shifts the energy. It sits in silence and radiates purpose. It says no without guilt and yes without fear. Why? Because it knows the vision. And when you know the vision, the noise gets quiet. You no longer wonder if you're doing too much. You no longer second guess every move. You no longer water down your voice to make others comfortable. You speak like someone who's been to the mountain. You move like someone who's seen the future and refuses to die without building it. That's what vision does. It lifts your standards so high that you start to suffocate anything that doesn't serve it. Excuses? Gone. Delays? Done. Overthinking? Out. Toxic circles? Cut. You no longer tolerate distractions disguised as opportunities. You no longer waste energy on people who can't see it. Because vision gives you X-ray vision. You see through the small talk. You see through the fake hustle. You see through the illusions of busy and productive and someday. And you ask the only question that matters. Does this move me closer? If the answer is no, it dies right there. That's how high your standards have risen. And here's the paradox. The higher your vision gets, the simpler life becomes. Because clarity eliminates. It cuts through the chaos. It frees you from decisions that once drained you. You know what to say yes to. You know what to build. You know who you are because now your vision isn't something you think about. It's something you embody. You walk with it. You bleed with it. You live by it. And when people ask you, how are you so certain? How do you know this is your path? You don't quote a book. You don't show them a strategy. You don't explain. You just point to your life and say, because I saw it before I ever stepped into it, and I moved like it was already mine. Then let's bring this to its rightful conclusion, not with softness, but with sovereignty. Because vision is not just something you chase. It's something you inherit the moment you decide to stop playing small. The moment you stop asking, is it realistic? And start asking, is it mine? Because what's real is not what's common. What's real is what you claim. And you've claimed it now. You've burned the backup plan. You've outgrown the version of yourself that needed approval. You've silenced the doubt by moving anyway. And that's what makes you dangerous now. Not because you know everything, but because your direction is non-negotiable. People will feel it. They'll feel it when you walk in the room. They'll feel it in your words. They'll feel it in your presence. Not because you're louder, but because you're clearer. You know where you're going. You know why it matters. And you know that every Stepivri scar, every sweat-soaked day of silence counts. Because it's all building the thing you saw before anyone else did. And soon, they'll see it too. They'll see the result. They'll see the work. They'll see the life that was once just a flicker in your spirit, now a living monument to what happens when someone dares to move before the path appears. And when they ask you how you did it, how you knew, how you kept going, you won't say you had the clearest plan. You won't say you had all the answers. You'll just look them in the eye and say, I had the vision, so I moved. And the rest appeared, because that's the truth they'll never teach you in the textbooks. If the vision is clear, the how will appear. And now, it already has. Keep walking.